You challenge the challenger narrative. And if you're not familiar with the challenger narrative, it's the, I'm old. I remember when the school rolled out the TV with the boob tube, they pulled it out and they had this, this TV and they showed us the challenger exploding and all these people died. And it was like, it was a tragedy, absolute tragedy. But then you have this video going around that you're like, wait a minute, these people are still living. These people are still alive. They have doppelgangers and they have the same names and relatively the same professions. And like, what are the odds? So dude, what the fohize? My conspiracy aluminum antennas are going bonkers right now. And I want to know more about this. So dude, I'm excited to talk to you about this because you sued. Was it you sued? You got in a lawsuit or legal battles with the state of Florida?
To August of last year, nobody really knew who I was.
There's about 12 people who are producing 65% of anti-vaccine misinformation.
We need to come together as Americans and realize that we have a war at hand here. Right?
Like, dude, how scared of this shit do you have to be to be wearing gloves, a face shield, and mask at this point?
Help us to urge folks and say to them, look, it's time to roll up your sleeve and get the shot.
Chiropractor in Omaha, Nebraska, responsible for 65% of the anti-vaccine misinformation. Put what I say to the test. Just don't write me off as crazy misinformation.
Doctor, please bring yourself in order.
600,000 people will die of cancer. 300,000 people will die of obesity this year. When is enough enough?
Yes, long time for sure. I'm so excited to be talking with you, man. You've been a guy that's been in the gap in the foxhole for a long time. So how you been?
Good, man. Doing good. Staying busy. Happy to get the fluoride out of the water here in Florida, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but we got plenty more battles ahead.
You're saying fluoride is not good for my teeth?
Not quite.
What about cavities? Yeah. I thought fluoride prevented cavities and it was good for my body. You're telling me it's not?
That's what they told us.
Dude, so good work on that, man. This is the crazy thing. Dude, we are sitting down. Hey, you've made history. You literally have made history. This should be making national news, not only on the fluoride subject, but also on the freaking challenger stuff. That's what I was like, okay, I have to sit down with you and talk about this because this should be making headlines, dude. What you brought to the table and what changed. So, dude, I think you need to deserve like an award. First of all, thank God for the work you've been doing. And, we've been standing in the gap on the vaccine issue for many years. And this is how I caught Wendy. I'm like, oh, Justin's a brother from another mother. Like, standing in the gap, speaking the truth about vaccines and the COVID nonsense and the COVID garbage. And so people like you and myself are few and far between. So I want to just kind of get to know your story, how you got into this fight. When did you wake up on the vaccine side of things? And then we'll talk about the fluoride. We'll talk about the challenger stuff, but just give us a little bit insight.
Yeah. So up until the age of 25, which was the year 2012, I was a normal guy with a normal life. I believed my government. I liked sports. I partied, went to school, went to college. And then I had a rapid awakening and I fell into the rabbit hole. And I always tell people that I learned a lot in a short amount of time. I didn't know anything about politics or corruption or vaccines and health. I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I was blessed to have a pretty comfortable life growing up. So I didn't have to look at who was trying to screw us over or poison us. I really thought everything was peachy. But it was a rapid awakening for me and I couldn't sleep without warning other people. So I instantly got involved with journalism and activism, got involved with We Are Change, which is formerly a 9/11 Truth Movement group that evolved into an independent media and activist collective, totally decentralized, nonpartisan, just shining a light on all the issues that media won't touch and the things that we've been lied to about. I also got involved with the March Against Monsanto, which I hosted for 6 or 7 years, educating people about GMOs, the pesticides, the Bill Gates sponsored crap they're putting on our food, running the farmers out of business. That fight just evolved from big food to big pharma is what I say. And the vaccine sort of took a front row seat. We saw mandates coming down. Then COVID happened and mandates really came down. And it was just, using the tools that I had learned from protesting, confronting politicians, speaking at city council meetings, and just raising as much public awareness as possible on one side and also holding our local government officials' feet to the fire. So I realized you couldn't just do one thing. You had to do a little bit of all of them to be effective. And like I'll mention probably in this interview, the only way it was successful is by remaining creative and consistent.
Yep,
and also presenting yourself also correctly, right? Factual and professional.
Dude.
But it's been a long journey, and that sort of brings us up to speed. There's a lot in between there, but that's sort of what you'll catch me doing in a nutshell.
So you said 2012? So you went from Monsanto so you moved up the head of the cartel and the snake.
You could say that, yeah.
Right. So basically the head of the cartel, I believe, is pharma. Well, I should say Satan, really. Right. But it's like, you have this evil industry and all these cartels that we're fighting up against. And, and you see it. You see it with our agriculture, you see it with our food. And there's a saying out there, he who controls the oil controls the economy, but he who controls food controls the people.
Yeah.
And there is an evil that is trying to control us, make no mistake. So tell me, you said 2012. That's an interesting year because, I've been awake to the vaccine reality ever since I could walk, thankfully, because my parents were up against, I never was vaccinated, and they spoke out against vaccines and et cetera, et cetera. But, my eyes were open politically just out of curiosity. Are you a Ron Paul fan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If I were to align or vote for anybody, it would be Ron Paul.
Okay, we just became BFFs. Yes, yeah. So I campaigned, I volunteered for old Ron Paul, back in the 2012. Oh, wow. I really liked him, and I found out, he's an MD here, and he's a congressman for over 40 years, and he is he's a true patriot, hasn't taken a dime of lobbyist money, and he spoke out against the swine flu vaccine and said, do not take this. This is all, corruption. And so, I saw firsthand the power of the media. Malcolm X said, be careful with the media because they're one of the most powerful entities on the planet because they can have you loving the oppressor and hating the oppressed. I saw that, and I've experienced that firsthand, as have you, with just the corruption and the power of the media. 2012 is an interesting year because we both, I think, woke up to the craziness of the political realm, and our eyes were opened. And so, me more so on the media side, how powerful the media is and how they lie, and they just lie right through their teeth. And the government is not our friend. They're not telling us the truth. And they're using Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution over and over and over to push their stuff and going on. So, so you've been fighting against the Monsanto, the big ag companies, and now, and you've been fighting obviously against the COVID and the vaccine realm. And that's where I've heard of you. And this is where, we've kind of aligned and we've connected through that realm. And then you've been just a, how do you say it? You've been a champion for the people and for truth. And, when it's not easy, right? And so this is why I want to sit down with you and talk to you, because you've been in the gap. You've been in the foxhole. This hasn't been a fun road. You're not doing this for publicity. You're doing this because your convictions are greater than your placency. Your convictions are greater than your fear of persecution. And Justin, this is why I'm a fan of yours. So tell me the victories that you've had with the fluoride. I want to know about this because people, we're going to red pill some people listening. I pray that we are, I just want to tailor and preach to the choir here. But, for the people that are listening, tell us why we should not be consuming fluoride.
Right. Yeah. It's like, it was just like you talk about how you spotted me during COVID. I saw what you were doing. Like, you popped up on my feed speaking at a council meeting. And it was during COVID, watching people like you speaking out against the masks and the vaccines, that I really tailored that this strategy of speaking at these meetings. And people say, "Oh, Justin, why are you going in there?" They don't ever listen. They just say, "Next speaker, please." They never do anything. True, but the videos started getting attention on the internet. You've had your videos go viral. You're waking people up. You're inspiring them. Now the media's calling, "Hey, when are you going back to one of those meetings?" And then I started doing this during COVID, and I took everything that I learned and perfected then and took it straight to fluoride. So we were taking the firefighters and the vaccine injured into the meetings, getting media attention. The governor eventually stepped in and took away the mayor's power to force vaccinate people. And I say all that because that brings me to the fluoride thing. Once we got the federal court ruling that said fluoride lowers IQ last fall, we basically said, let's rally the troops and go back into these meetings and demand that all local governments take the fluoride out of the water, just like we did with COVID. And now we had actual leverage. We had a Surgeon General vocal and against fluoride. We have RFK Jr. taking the position, and he was vocal against fluoride. We had the federal court ruling, and we also had my favorite, which is the fourth key to our success, was the post-COVID world mentality. I had so many council members go, oh yeah, forcing a medication. Where have I heard that before? Oh, we just did that. It went over horribly, and forced vaccines are a bad idea, and forced medication is wrong. So the light bulb would go off and go, how is fluoride any different? We're forcing a medicine in the water supply that not everyone is in agreement with. And it could have risks. And like we always said with the vaccine, where there is risk, there must be choice.
Amen.
So we used that strategy. We went in, my county, Orange County, some of the big blue areas with the major city centers, they weren't going to listen. So we just go around and start working our way in and getting the smaller communities. And we ended up removing it from 22 cities and 4 counties in Florida in just 6 months.
Say now, one more time, 20, say it again.
It was 22 cities and 4 counties that removed it in 6 months after the Surgeon General guidance. Now, while we didn't physically go into every single one, some of them did it on their own. But many of those we were working hand in hand with and educating the council members, encouraging the local community members to go in and speak. And they saw our presence, they saw our consistency. We were using the right tools like that federal court case, and not so much also the science. I just want to point out that our biggest linchpin wasn't, hey, look at the court case and look at RFK and look at Latipo. It was forced medication is wrong. And you can line up your dentists and your doctors, and we can too. We can all bring our studies, but guess what? No matter how you slice it, forced medication is wrong. And if I could get that through, which I did to some of these council members over the phone, it was magic, because it would work. They'd go, wow, it really is. Like one mayor said, we quoted him, he goes, it doesn't matter how I feel personally about fluoride, dangerous, safe, effective. He goes, I can't force it on the population of my city that don't want it.
Right.
And there's other ways to get it. So, we can go into what fluoride really is, but that's essentially the strategy we used, and it worked very well.
Dude, you hit the nail on the head. We should not force medication, and that's a slippery slope because, in the state of Nebraska, I literally have a $1,300 bill because the hospitals, it's law in the state of Nebraska, and maybe I'm not sure in other states, but I know in Nebraska, it is law. It is a law that you have to get blood drawn for the baby, so in order to get a birth certificate, so they do a screening that's by law. And again, that should not be the case. And they're like, oh, it saves lives. It saves like what? The stats show like 1 out of 50,000 babies. Maybe it saves their life, but I'd like to even argue that it's probably less than that. And it's like, how do they even know it's saving lives? And usually there's mother's intuition. If mom and dads know if there's something going on, there's a mother's intuition that they usually can tell if something's going on.
Right.
But again, it should not be law. It should not be mandated. And then the hospitals know that, and so they can ding me $1,300 for this pre-screening blood draw, and it should not be required. And it goes back to the quote by Benjamin Rush, the signer of our Declaration. And I've said this over and over and over, that we need to put medical freedom in the Constitution, because the time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men. Again, it's a slippery slope, and I love the angle, and that's what we have to do. We have to think outside the box. We can talk till we're blue in the face what fluoride is. It is a neurotoxin. This is why it lowers IQ. It is not a nutrient. It should not be ingested. And, arguably it has topical effects on the teeth, but there's more harm on the teeth than benefits of the teeth.
Right.
And it should not be, calcifies the pineal gland. It affects our body in thousands of different ways. And it's one of the most highly reactive elements on the periodic table. Why on God's green earth should we put that in our body? So, I know people are like, well, the comical thing is I've seen people now since Ohio, I think it's Utah or Ohio was the first state. Now
Utah,
Florida, yeah, Utah, and then Florida is now the second state that are doing this. And they're talking about, it's comical that these new parents like, well, how do I get fluoride back in the water? I'm like, it's like baffles my brain.
Yeah, the amount of people that are like fighting to still have their glyphosate, still have their fluoride, or still have the mercury in their vaccines. It's like, I don't know. We're actually taking out the one harmful thing that everyone's concerned about. Like, what is the big deal? I mean, are people going to go like chug high fructose corn syrup if they take it out of Coca-Cola? How silly would that be? I mean, this is what they sound like, but I think they're clinging to like a narrative and a belief system more than they are the substance.
Dude,
you know,
that's exactly right. It is such a stigma. Even the vaccine thing, having dialogue is part of science. And they have these bumper sticker slogans. The science is settled, and it's like, well, that's a scary slogan, because if you believe that, then we never have an evolvement of science. We never have science progressing in the right direction. We never learn anything new because science is settled. It's
done. Really never settled is what it should say.
Amen. Yeah. Right. We're always learning, and it comes from a place of humility. We should humble ourselves to be able to learn more through the lenses of observation. That's what science is. But so, kudos to you, my friend. I think you deserve an award, and I would give you an award. I should just manufacture an award and send it to you, Justin. If people listening, we should just send you an award, and Justin needs that because he has been a champion for the people, for the truth. But dude, I'm a conspiracy nut already. And so I grew up that way. I thank my mom. She called BS on the JFK stuff already since I was a little kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I grew up in this space, right? Conspiracies. So I always call BS on everything. I ask questions. 9/11, I'm like, okay, did planes really hit 9/11? That's a whole nother topic. And it's like, these buildings fell at a free fall rate. In order for that to happen, every single weight-bearing joint in that building has to give out at the exact same time, and that's really mathematically impossible unless it was controlled demolition. I digress. Sandy Hook, we had a 2,700-page bill within 24 hours that correlated that case. How is that even possible? Like all these things, I'm just like calling conspiracy. This is all Hegelian dialectic. They're creating these problems. So let's just say it. I'm a conspiracy nut. Don't even care. I don't even care. I wear my aluminum hat proudly, and I have questions. We need to be asking questions, and more people need to be asking questions instead of just being programmed by the television, right?
They would
and it's
never
like,
lie.
people, God gave you a brain. Use it. Ask questions. We need to have critical thought here because it's showing. I feel like we're in that movie. What is that movie? Idiocracy. Like literally, we are living that movie right now. This is an IQ test at this point. If you're still rolling up your sleeve and getting these vaccines, I'm sorry, your level of IQ right now is showing. If you're still believing the narrative, your IQ is showing. Okay, dude. Now, for those that are listening, I want a disclaimer. I am not a full-blown flat earther. I'm not a full-blown the earth is ground. I'm like, I don't know. I have questions, and I think it's okay to ask questions. And I know you challenged the challenger, the right narrative. And if you're not familiar with the challenger narrative, it's I'm old. I remember when the school rolled out the TV with the boob tube. They pulled it out and they had this, this TV and they showed us the challenger exploding and all these people died. And it was like, it was a tragedy, absolute tragedy. But then you had this video going around that you're like, wait a minute, these people are still living. These people are still alive. They have doppelgangers and they have the same names and relatively the same professions. And what are the odds? So, dude, what the fohize? My conspiracy aluminum antennas are going bonkers right now. And I want to know more about this. So, dude, I'm excited to talk to you about this because you sued. Was it you sued? You got in a lawsuit or legal battles with the state of Florida? Because you're in the area where the challenger took off, right?
Correct. Yeah, I don't live too far from it. I ended up suing them over them kicking me out of a meeting. So it wasn't suing them over the truth of the challenger. It was suing them over my First Amendment. But still, it shined a light and really kind of brought all that up to the surface. But before we get there, yeah, it's true. And don't let me forget to talk about that traumatic ritualistic experience that every single person tells me about. I was born in 1987. So full disclaimer, I was not even alive for the Challenger. But every single person that tells me about it has the same story about how they were so hooked into it and the TV rolled out in the classroom and they made every single person watch it. It was like the only one they ever did that for, right? Essentially what happened was 7 astronauts went up and the rocket allegedly it blew up. We all saw it blow up. Some people think that we're calling that fake. No, we think it blew up. We just think it potentially blew up empty. It wasn't until many years later the internet came about and people found what looked to be these people's doppelgangers. Now everybody's got a doppelganger, right? You do, I do. But if you run into another Ben Tapper that has the same name and faces you and is the same age, that would be very, very, very weird, rare, almost impossible. But let's say it's possible. There's 6 of the 7 astronauts in this case. Now, I only focused on 3. I took the 3 that were the most convincing, that have the exact same names, and that was Judith Resnick, Michael J. Smith, and Dick Scobie, or Richard Scobie. And I basically took in their before and after photos of what people found and showed them side by side. And like I said, I did some research into this, into doppelgangers and the odds of finding someone, put it this way. Not only that, they work, like you said, in the same professions. So what are the chances that someone is still in the engineering field, has the same name, has the same little dimple, the same funny nose, and is the same age, but you're telling me these aren't the same people? So these just raise the most insane statistical improbability. And I'm not even a big person on the doppelganger thing. I don't really like, some people are like, oh, this person was in multiple crisis actor events. People can get plastic surgery, fake their backstory. It gets very confusing. But this one was too damning. It was just way too damning. And I took what other people had already discovered, laid it out in a 3-minute speech, and took it in. And I presented it in Brevard County. And while people say, oh, that's not relevant there, I was asking them to help me alert the federal government about a fraud or a crime that took place in their county. And apparently the topic pissed off the chairman so much that he kicked me out of the room, told me I was crazy, and that led to a lawsuit against Brevard County, which I just recently settled, and they had to pay for what they did to me. And I'm pretty sure that next time I go in there, they won't be kicking anybody out early, because they had to go through a year-long lawsuit and pay out thousands of dollars.
Dude, good for you.
So,
man, it makes me want to, I don't know if we're past the statute of limitations, but I was at the city council almost weekly during the pandemic, and they gave me 3 minutes, dude. And they gave all the doctors there in support of the mask all the time in the world to state their case. Some had 30 minutes.
They'll do that.
And I'm like, you jerks, you gave me 3 minutes. That's the lawsuit. You were in violation of the public hearing codes of Nebraska. I just made that up, but I'm sure that sounds good. It's probably a lawsuit.
Yeah. Well, they get really on their high horse in these meeting rooms, and they do have rules of the meetings, and they think the rules can supersede other things like First Amendment, and
yes,
it gets gray and tricky. But again, I don't think they thought they were going to win the case. I personally didn't want to keep going along with it because it was draining of money. I didn't have the funds to keep paying a lawyer for that much more time. He covered some of it. We raised some money. It was working out in the beginning, but they were dragging it. And what's funny is an interesting thing about that case is they asked me during part of the process, they said, provide us all the evidence that you have that you think the challenger was faked. And I was like, really? Why would they even go there?
That's a great question.
Like, this is
absolutely.
You'd think that we would want to open that can of worms, not them. And so we bit, and I sent them everything. I was like, sent them all the videos, the things I did, other people did, the pictures of the people. They never responded. And 2 days before our mediation, they settled.
Wow, dude.
So it's very similar.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
It tells me that either someone told them, listen, this is going to get too much publicity, just drop it. Or they were internally just like, we probably won't win this case. It's on video. I wear a suit, and I don't cuss, and I don't try not to raise my voice or anything. So they can't even be like, oh, this guy's crazy, he broke decorum, look at him. I make it very difficult for them. So when they're looking at all that circumstance and everything was recorded, so you can't be like, oh, he said something when the camera went off. My camera never stopped.
Dude, did you settle?
Yeah, I settled.
Dude, I wonder if you could prolong that though, kick the can down the hall and say, hey, I don't want to settle.
We've already done it now, but I don't know if you could maybe go at them in another way, file another lawsuit against them.
Justin, I think you need to push the envelope. I think God has you there for a reason. And what are the odds, though? You're the only one bringing this to the forefront in conversation here, and you're just so happens to be living in the area where the Challenger took off, right?
Well, I've got other plans, and I won't reveal them now, but I do have other plans, not with the Challenger, but with other NASA stuff that I'd like to expose in there. And there's plenty of things that you can go off of. This is not the only lie that they're involved with.
Okay, dude. So I like this conversation. I like this is where it's going. I like conspiracies. Okay, so just out of curiosity, I ask everyone this: are you a Christian?
So I didn't grow up with any politics or religion in my house. So I was just on an island of ignorance. But since I woke up to all of this information and this NASA, where we are in the universe question, I am sure of a creator, and I believe in it, and I know it, and I have a relationship, but I just have never really been subscribed to any religion whatsoever.
Okay, so just transparency, I'm a Christian. And my testimony, the craziness, I understand the only solid objective truth that we have is God's word. And so so I encourage you to dive into that, because my testimony is like, I feel like God has revealed himself through his word and through my life in crazy ways. It's like, there was a meme out there where like, you ever see that dude, like he's got all these things on the wall and he's like crazy. He's pointing, like, and some people are like, I grew up in the church and I found God. Like, I found Jesus through this, and that's me. Like,
and see, that's what I resonate with too. I feel like I was shown and given confirmation that there is a higher power out there through my awakening process. I didn't have any of those experiences prior to that.
Right. So, I don't want to get too far off topic, but just since we're on this topic and this conspiracies and the lies and all this stuff that we're talking about, dude, like the biblical truths are so censored. To give you an idea, like even I know like your views on the earth and like in scripture and the firmament, like that to me where it's like, well, if God's word is the truth. I mean, the Bible even talks about a firmament,
right?
And and he separated the waters from above and below, and the four corners, and why we have a compass that points to four corners, and all these different things. And you start thinking, it's like, is this a lie that I've been fed from since day one, and all these computerized images of the earth and all these things? Or we just been fed a bunch of bag of goods? Yeah. And I'm at the point where I'm like, I question everything, dude. I question all. And so it's like, okay, then what truth do I have to rely on? There's got to be something. There's got to be something where I can, a foundation, a firm foundation. And that's like where the Bible even says, Christ is my firm foundation, dude. Like, okay, I'm going to rely on his word because his word is pointing to truth, and God created the earth. And I don't even believe in an old earth anymore. And I used to believe in it. And I believe in a young earth, and that is biblical. And like, you look at polystrate fossils, and polystrate fossils are the fossilized trees and the rock layers. And, in the science, so-called science community, they say, oh, well, the earth was, it's billions and billions of years old. But, these rock layers are formed in billions of years. But then you have these fossilized trees like God put there. It's like, well, what about these that are perpendicular to the rock layers? And it's like, well, God created that. That's only possible through a flood. If they're buried rapidly while still living, and how do you explain the millions of trees? And there's a reason why we're not taught the polystrate fossils. Okay, I digress. I'm going down the rabbit hole now.
But that's a perfect segue, because it's connected, because you're asking about basically the biggest conspiracy is to hide history and to hide God. I've come to that conclusion. And I think that's what lying to us and telling us that we're on a rock, spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour, going through nowhere fast in endless darkness, that is a godless accident with no purpose. But then you take a fixed, immovable, four corners creation where everything revolves around the center, and we are very special, here for a reason, created in his image, all of these things that you're talking about. I think that's what they don't want us to figure out. Imagine, I always liken it to the Truman Show. Truman was a real pain in the butt when he started waking up. He was like, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go try to explore. And they kept blocking him and throwing things in front of him. Imagine if there were 8 billion Trumans that not only knew there was a way out and were trying to escape, but also understood their true power and their true connection with the creator, and didn't think that this was just I just popped out of a monkey and we might get hit by a meteor and this man on a cloud fairy tale. Like, I really truly think that it's all designed to separate us from what true history and what the true creator is about. And that, man, people are so easy to control when they're ignorant. If I don't know how the creator works or how gravity works or where anything is, I mean, if you're blindfolded in a basement, you're pretty easy to control and move around. You don't 100%. Want people to know, like, map out. If I had the whole world, like, in the back of my head, like, oh, I know how to get, just like you know how to get around your town. They don't want you to know how to operate reality and the forces. And we understand all those things. It's just like Rockefeller said, we don't create thinkers and philosophers anymore. We have enough of those. We will create obedient workers.
Dude, right.
I mean, that's what this is all about. And that's why I say people get bent out of shape. Oh, the shape of the earth and all. Don't go down that road. I think it's more about hiding history.
Yep.
And we need to be asking those questions about the structures on Earth, the pyramids, the giants, the dragons.
Dude, don't go there, Justin. You just did. You just opened up a can of. Dude,
I know.
The Nephilim.
These things are not
the giants.
People don't make these things up.
We just became BFFs on a different level.
I used to have talks with my friends when we woke up about this stuff, and I'd say, you know what? It's like people don't just make up a creature. Like if you were to make up a creature right now, you'd give it either dog legs, fish fins, bear head. So that's where I'm like, I don't know, man. I think there might be some validity to the whole mermaid, dragon, giant stories. And maybe they're from the outer lands. Maybe they're from underwater.
I'm going to hit the brakes here. Hold on a second. Hold on.
We're digressing a little.
You hit a word here that's like got me all giggity. Okay. First of all, going back to Genesis 6, okay, I'm back. It says that Nephilim or giants, it said the mighty men. If you go to the Septuagint, I believe it says actual giants in the Septuagint. But it says that they lived post-flood. There were giants post-flood. Okay, that's in Genesis 6. Now, here's the thing. I used to think, I was very naive. Oh, giants, they were destroyed in the flood. And people are like, well, they probably had acromegaly or giantism. And I'm like, well, Goliath, they said he was a champion of war. The breastplate weighed 150 pounds. The head of his spear weighed 15 pounds. The dude was a big dude. And if you go to the conservative cubit, he was 9.5 feet tall. Generous cubit, he's 11.5 feet tall. The dude was a big dude, right?
Yeah,
but then you have these megalith structures all over the place, right, that they can't explain. They're like, well, we don't know how they got there. But let's just say, the Bible also says when Joshua and Caleb went to look for the promised land, they said that these men were so big, we were the size of crickets. Okay, these are big dudes, right? Huge people, right? And then you talk about...
have you seen the tree stumps?
The tree stumps, yes, and the root systems. But even the burial mounds, dude, the burial mounds, right? And so I want to say, the burial mounds, right?
Yeah, but tell me, that rings a bell, but tell me what that is again.
Okay, so let me tell you this. This is the... hold on one second. I want to read one quote by a man that I think everyone knows, Abraham Lincoln. Okay, this is a famous quote. Look it up. He said that the eyes of the species of extinct giant whose bones fill the mounds of America have gazed on Niagara as our eyes do now. What in the Fohize is he talking about? What burial mounds? Oh, you're talking about the burial mounds that when you dig into is a federal offense and it's a 30-year prison sentence automatically if you dig into them because they're protected burial sites from the government. There's 10,000 burial mounds alone in Ohio. There's serpent mounds, which tie back into Genesis 3. And our government's like, well, we don't know how they got there, but the Native Americans built them. And if you ask the Native American tribes, they'll tell you that we have no idea how they got there.
Yeah.
But they're serpent mounds, and they're only visible by the air, which ties into Ephesians 2:2. Satan is the prince and power of the air. Okay, so that's very interesting. So again, Genesis 3, seed war, and it's a snake eating an egg, and they're all over. But we don't talk about those things. Why? Because we have a nation of workers. We don't have critical thinkers anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the Nephilim. I still think the Nephilim are still alive. Now, talk about that. Wrap your head around. Hey, I want to have a question, though. Okay, so I'm all over the place. Do you believe, now I don't want to dance around the subject. I'm not a full-blown, I feel like we've been lied to. Yes. With the earth, with the land, everything. We have an island.
You go where I think you're going, I'm just going to crack up because I think I know where you're going.
Is there land behind the ice wall?
Okay, I thought you were going another route, but that's fine.
Which route do you want to go? Which route do you think I was
going?
No,
we were getting into giants. I thought you were going to ask me about Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, that's a whole nother probably podcast, and I'm probably not the one for it, but there's something there. Is there land beyond the ice wall? So with that whole topic, I like to really only stick to the things I can prove, but I'll speculate because we can't go there, right? You get to the 60th parallel, military boats or planes will meet you and turn you around.
To go to the Antarctica. The 66th parallel is getting too close to the perimeter of Antarctica.
Exactly. And there's actually videos of people trying to do it or accidentally fishing too far. And they do. You'll get turned around. You get fined a lot of money, jail time. It's a big deal. It's like, imagine just wandering onto a restricted military base. You're going to get in a lot of trouble. Same thing if you go past that 60th parallel. So no one can go.
It's the ocean. You're going to the ocean and it's water.
I know. But Antarctica has a treaty with most of the nations that can't agree on anything. They go to war together, but they can agree that no one's allowed to explore Antarctica independently. Now, someone in the comments will go, oh, wait, tourists go there, or some people just went recently. They do let you go on very controlled and expensive tourist trips. If you want
to
spend...
like a peninsula of Antarctica. It's not even like a...
It would be like someone living in Africa and saying, hey, you're allowed to go to Florida, but it costs $30,000, and we're going to take you to one little beach on the Florida Keys and then take you right back. And you're like, oh, I went to Florida. And it's like, yeah, they just took you to a beach and you don't even know where that beach was. It could have been an island off Mexico. So that's what they do. The ceremonial South Pole is down there, whatnot. But that's another thing. I don't know personally, but there's a lot of testimony for it. Admiral Byrd was with the Navy down in the 50s. He was told to go down there and check it out. He came back and said he saw landmass the size of America, green and lush, that no one had ever seen before. There are other stories. They're anecdotal. They're written in books. But a long time ago, people, I've got a book it's impossible to verify, but it's very detailed stories of people exploring outside the ice wall, finding other civilizations, other continents, talking to them, learning the history about all of the extra lands and how ours plays into that part. And it's got stories in there about how at one point giants came over and helped us fight off some evil entity from other lands and then left and went back to where they were. So it was almost like we were on our last leg and they came over to help us get out of our situation and then left. I can't confirm any of that. There's a lot of interesting stories about extra land beyond there. And why are all the countries in agreement to not let anyone explore? If it's just penguins, if it's a little dangerous, so be it. Give us a warning. But to treat it like it's the biggest secret and that you're hiding UFOs or extra land down there, it makes everybody ask more questions.
Well, the thing that, so I would make fun of people that would talk about this, right? And I'm sorry if I made fun of you, and I'm sorry. Okay. But I'm open to this conversation. Why? Because I have zero trust in our government and what we've been fed. I feel like it's been, I bet these public school systems are just indoctrination camps.
Yeah.
And really that discourages critical thought. And so on that note, my little plug for homeschooling. I recommend homeschooling your kids if you haven't already. And grades don't measure intelligence, they measure obedience. I was proud parents of a D average student. Thank you very much. Okay, so my point is, I started questioning the Antarctica stuff. I had a neighbor, God bless his soul, he passed away, but he would tell me, he was a Navy SEAL, and he would drink, and he was like, Admiral Byrd was right. He's like, I wish I could tell you what I know, but I signed a gag order from the government. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
What? He was just telling me all these things. I'm like, and I wish I would have picked his brain and really pushed the envelope there, because there were so many things that he would talk about Admiral Byrd and all this stuff. And they brought 5,000 soldiers to Antarctica or something like that. With Admiral, why did they need all those soldiers there? Why was that even a thing? And also equipment. And again, it just raises more questions than answers, right? Like, why can't we go there? Why can't we explore? Why is it such hush hush? And not only that, my Apple map used to be like a flat thing, and they would have Antarctica all the way across the bottom. Now they get this illusion that Antarctica is this little dinky small continent.
Well, that's an interesting one there too, because if you go try to pull up a real picture of Antarctica from space. So if we've got tens of thousands of satellites that have been orbiting for decades, you would assume that one of them's gone around Antarctica. If they're going around the whole ball, they're going around the northern continents, the southern ones, the middle, the top, all of it, right? We've never got a picture of Antarctica. There's no picture of the continent on the bottom of the ball. Doesn't exist. They're all computer generated, which is also true for satellites in space. If you try to find another picture of a satellite in space, it's always a computer generated image. It's always a cartoon. Why? I don't know. I don't think the ones that they tell us are up there are really up there. I think the only satellites up there are on helium balloons. But that's another story. It's you take your Google thing and you try to measure the distance around Africa or Australia, and it'll do it. It'll give you the distance. You try to do that distance measurement around Antarctica, and it gets crazy. It's like it goes out of whack. Doesn't know what to do. So they're definitely lying to us about the map. Antarctica is the highest elevation in the world. So I truly do think we're in sort of almost like a dinner plate with an upturned edge. And that upturned edge, the crust of the pizza, if you will, is Antarctica. And what's beyond that, we don't know. Because it go on forever? Are there other lands? Are there 70 other lands? I don't know, but I'd love to find out.
So I am not a full-blown flat earther, but I have questions, and I am open to discussing. And I think that's what we should all be doing. And I think that, to me, science is observational. And what do we learn in science? I never see water bending, water curving. And the thing that really got my attention, NASA, I think last year, the year before, they signed some kind of contract or something with Nikon. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
And then Nikon, like within 24 hours, discontinues their most powerful telescopic camera, which is the Nikon P1000. And I'm like, I know nothing about cameras outside the camera on my iPhone. I'm like, but I want that camera. Yeah. So I called around and I got this. I found one, and it's like a used one. I said, put my name on it. I'll be there tomorrow or pick it up. And so I bought this camera, and then you start seeing these videos online, and they're almost being censored of people using this camera and zooming all the way across like Lake Michigan, and then like, look, there should be 150 miles of bending curvature, but it's flat. Right. I can zoom in on the city. How is that possible? Then you have the news people like, oh, it's a reflection of the water.
A mirage.
And I'm like, dude, that's BS. You can see it. And so to me, it just raises questions. And then I took a picture of the moon, and look at this moon I got. I don't know if you can see it, but like, I don't know if this is good, but look at that moon. I took a picture of that.
Yeah.
I can zoom in.
No. So they want us to believe that your phone is able to pick up that much detail on an object 238,000 miles away.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's, and this is where I start raising questions, because I'm just like, okay, God, give me discernment, give me wisdom here.
Mhm.
I want to know the truth. I'm zooming on this moon with my camera. I can zoom in almost on the surface of this thing.
Right.
I'm like, this can't be 200-some thousand miles away, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And then I am observing, and it's like the sun and the moon are almost identical in size, and it's just, it makes you wonder. And I'm like, maybe they're in the firmament. I think they're in the firmament. Then you look at Operation Fishbowl and all these different things of like, okay, they sent nukes out to try to get them out of the atmosphere, and it just doesn't look. It looks like it's hitting water, and you start looking at these things, and it's a weird name, Operation Fishbowl. Isn't that a interesting name? Yeah. So you just start asking questions, and we start looking into this, and like, I think we've been sold a bag of goods. So it's fascinating. But again, I don't doubt it. I really do believe that we are being so controlled that we are trying to be dumbed down from the fluoride. We're being dumbed down and discouraged to ask questions. You are ridiculed and persecuted if you start asking questions outside of the narrative. And really, think about this. How much ridicule would you get if you were out there and say, oh, the earth is, we've been sold a bag of goods. And it's controversial for me even to talk about it. And I'm like, do I bring flat earth thing? I'm going to get persecuted for this. But I'm asking questions.
Yep. And it's funny because it's actually become way more normalized than it was 10 years ago. I'm on my 10-year anniversary of discovering that topic and speaking on it now. And, it's almost more controversial to talk about, the Israel thing or the virus thing. But you said a lot there that I could go into. But one of the big things for me is I guess take it where everybody's mind goes first. It's like, well, what do you mean? I've seen the picture on my phone. I got the globe photo on my iPhone back, when they first came out. It was so cool. That's the blue marble. Well, Robert Simon, a NASA data visualizer, created that in Photoshop. And he's got a whole interview online about how he did it. And he's like, oh, they give us ribbons of imagery, and we splice them together, and then I kind of put the clouds in there, and I use the clone tool. So he's like copying and pasting cloud. The clouds are fake. The ocean color is fake. He designed it. It's not a photograph. And you're like, okay, well, there's probably thousands still. There's none. There's literally zero. The only one that they claimed was real was a photo they took on the way to the moon. Well, then you watch the documentary on the moon mission, and they're faking the shot out the window in outtakes and using a piece of cardboard to make it look like the Earth out the window. So that trip is fake. So the only picture you have of the Earth is a fake. Now, in the last 8 years, they have come up with other excuses. Oh, we've got a new satellite out there that takes a picture every day. I can talk about that. But before they made that excuse, there were none. Now, you mean to tell me that we've been to the moon 6 times, allegedly. We've got tens of thousands of satellites orbiting the Earth, some few thousand miles away, some a million miles away, the ISS, all these things. And nobody's ever gotten one far away enough to take a picture of our home. And they say, oh, well, they just come up with all these excuses, and it's wild. But then you keep going down the rabbit hole, and then it's like, okay, well, the boat's over the horizon. Well, I measured it with a laser, and the lake is completely flat. So, I mean, it's just like this. There's no example in real life where this water is ever going to curve. Like, no matter how I turn this bottle, it's always going to find equilibrium and seek and maintain flat and level, hence sea level. Airplanes fly in the air over a plane. They fly completely flat.
Yeah. So, okay, you're opening another can of worms. Okay,
yeah.
This is things where I start asking questions because, again, we learn through lenses of observation. We have to look through. That's our truth is objective. It's not relative. It's objective.
Exactly.
So when so I was thinking there's this jet that we have that does Mach 10, right? Mm-hmm. It can fly to like New York and Hong Kong in no time, right? So then I was asking a pilot, okay, and he was like all geeking out over it. Yeah, Mach 10, that's crazy. I'm like, okay, that's a long distance, right? And so what prevents him from just flying out to outer space?
Exactly, yeah.
Does he have to tip the nose down like every so many seconds to constantly fly in that? You know what I mean?
Right. So, and I actually asked, it's funny you bring this up. 2 days ago, an account reshared my pilot confrontations. I talked to 3 pilots on a trip, 1 on the way up and 2 on the way back once. And it was a great one. I got it all on video. And I asked them this question. And most people, they're knee jerk, probably right when you said that, were like, oh, that's ridiculous. The Earth is so big. You don't fly off into space like you're a cartoon and you're that much bigger. True, but there is a drop and there is a formula. So what is it? It's 8 inches per mile squared. And yes, you can't use that over super long distances, but you can use it over short distances, like a trip from Florida to New York. And you use that formula and you calculate how high the plane is and how fast it's traveling. It would have to slowly dip a half a mile every minute. Now imagine every minute you're in that airplane, and every minute that goes by, it's got to like correct a half mile. That would be a very uncomfortable plane ride. Now the pilots will tell you, I've never thought about that. I don't know how that works. The next pilot will go, the plane does it. And the next pilot will go, gravity does it. So clearly they are taught how to fly a plane from point A to point B. They're smart guys, but they don't really grasp the atmosphere and the earth. And they just believe what they're told, just like we did. So no pilots are in on the lie. No pilots are running around going, haha, I know it's flat because I fly they all think it's a globe. They look out the window and they assume it's too big for you to see the curve, and it must be a globe because that's what everyone knows. But yeah, airplanes operate as if they move over a stationary plane. They don't have to adjust for a moving runway on a rotating sphere.
That's another thing. Yes.
They don't have to.
Again, they operate as if it's stationary.
Yeah.
As if it were flat.
And the best part,
even flight routes,
yeah,
are observed in it as if it was flat.
And the best part is their training manuals. There's a video out there. I've got it saved somewhere. It's like 44 documents, and it's CIA, FAA, Army, and NASA documents, all outlining how they train their airplane operators. And it's over a flat, non-rotating Earth. It will say, for this, you must assume flat, non-rotating Earth. This is over a fixed, motionless plane. Every single one, because you have to operate with reality. If you were going to tell a guy to fly a plane and say, hey, man, the Earth's moving 1,000 miles per hour west to east, and there's an 8-inch per mile drop, make sure you don't. No one has ever told about that stuff. We assume the snipers account for it. But if you really dig in and ask a sniper, he'll go, no, I only account for wind and elevation and other things. They don't shoot a shot and then go, okay, the Earth's spun a little bit. I got to calculate that. Like, that would be asinine. So, and then people say, well, the airplane moves with the atmosphere. That's the rebuttal, right? Well, hot air balloon doesn't, helicopter doesn't, sniper bullet doesn't. So what you got to pick, which way you want to have it here. Does everything move with the atmosphere or not? And you and me can go outside and watch two sets of clouds move in opposite directions. So clearly everything's not moving in unison with the atmosphere. We wouldn't have different wind patterns and different cloud motions. So it's a perfectly made, intelligent design sky clock above us.
So, dude, the thing that really got me to question this, I used to make fun of people that would talk about these things.
Same.
I was one of those people, and I'm sorry, but my heart has softened and my eyes have been a little bit open to this topic to have dialogue.
Right.
I don't know where I stand. People are like, oh, Tappers a flat earther. Oh, I knew it. They're going to be like making fun of me. Now, listen, I think it's healthy. I don't know how many times I have to say that. And maybe I shouldn't even have to say that. I think it's healthy to ask questions. It's critical thought. God gave me a brain, and I'm seeking the truth here.
Right.
The thing that woke me up was the moon landing. Because, I live in the boonies of Nebraska. And, dude, I can't even get cell phone reception where I live.
Oh.
Right? And then homeboys on the moon communicating to the White House.
On a landline.
On a landline.
They claim
they
just patched them in through Houston. You just patch them on through.
Right. Like, can we use our brains here? But the thing, that is something that I could not wrap my head around. The other thing, there's three things here. It's like a three-legged stool.
Mm-hmm.
The NASA is stating, we lost the technology to go back to the moon. What?
Yeah.
Like
just like the Epstein files, right?
Does it? Yeah, right. Is this like isn't like taxpayer money going to NASA? If that's the case, shouldn't every American? I don't know if that's true or not, but it shouldn't be, the taxpayer thing. If it is true, then every American should be pissed that we've been sold a bag of goods. But the other thing that stood out to me was when I believe it was Buzz Aldrin in like 2015. He was doing a book reading. And some little girl, some cute, innocent little girl, hey, why haven't we gone back to the moon? And Buzz Aldrin's like, well, truth, he's old, he's raggedy, he knows he's been feeding this lie, he's probably weary of doing it, and he's just like, you know what, I don't have the heart to lie to this little girl just because we didn't go.
I think that's exactly right. And he's actually got 4, maybe 5 interviews like that with people where he says, well, someone says, what was the scariest part about going? He goes, well, we didn't.
Yeah,
we
did it.
Scary? It's like, what I truly think that he's under the like you said, he's under lock and key. He's probably threatened with his life and things that have happened to his family, and he's like supposed to take it to his deathbed. But he can maybe answer things weird that we pick up on, and then he can claim, "Sorry, I'm a little senile. I didn't know I said it that way," and he can probably get away with it. I hope it. Maybe he's throwing us a bone there, because we all saw Neil Armstrong he gave one public speech after his moon landing, and it was many, many years later. And you know what one of his quotes was in his speech? It was to a group of college kids graduating, high school, college, I don't remember. But he said, "I hope that this younger generation can peel back some of truth's protective layers."
Oof. I do remember that.
You were the only man, one of the 3 men to go on the moon for that infamous first mission. You've never spoken. That's what you're going to say to people? And then you get buzzed, being all senile, spilling the beans. You couple that with one more, their press conference. Show me 3 men look more upset. They either look like a family member died, they're about to get a life prison sentence. They're sitting there like this.
The burden of truth that haunts them, that there's conviction in them, but they do not. This is the thing.
They look like men forced to lie.
Right. And how do you say it? It becomes a spiritual component, because the Bible says, do not conform. Do not conform to this world. Conform means that you're conforming to a lie, you're conforming to the world, you're doing what everybody else is doing, regardless of what your convictions are, regardless of what is true, and especially inside of you. They know the truth, but they are conforming to that lie. And courage, you want to have true purpose and joy, then you got to stick to your convictions, regardless to what everybody else is doing. That's called courage, and that's, I would rather die broke and poor and whatever if I stood next to my convictions than have everything in the world. And the Bible says, what good is a man who gains the whole world but loses his soul? You know? And that's what these men are doing. They're conforming to this lie. So, dude, but that's going back to the Buzz Aldrin statement. That's to me like, what did he say? And that's when I'm really going, wow. Again, this is a giant IQ test, people. Are we awake? Are we listening? Are our ears inclined to listening? Is our heart inclined to understand? And really, this is a heart issue. And Satan is the great deceiver. We are in a world of deception, a world of illusion, and we are swimming in a cesspool of lies. And we have to use discernment. We have to have wisdom. We have to have critical thought now more than ever before. And common sense is not so common. The problem is we've been sold a bag of goods on so many levels, in the agricultural industry, the farming industry, the science industry, the health industry. And it's really the 7 mountains that Satan is coming after. And so it's good to ask questions. It's good to have dialogue. It's good to have these conversations. Justin, I feel like we could talk all day, dude.
We probably could. I mean, we could probably go back and pull out different legs of each one of those topics and keep going.
I think we need to have a part 2, part 3.
Yeah, I'm up for it.
Really, we got Ron Paul coming on here next week.
Oh, do you? Great.
Yeah. And I love Ron Paul. He's a good old boy. He speaks the truth, and
I'd love to meet him one day, man. I was at an event one time, a Liberty conference or something, but I never got to meet him. He's one of the cool someone I'd actually like to really meet.
Dude, this is shameful, and I apologize for all the people that were visiting Ron Paul when I got to see him. But I met him a couple times, and the first time it was more low key. It was on the campaign trail, and we got to meet him, talk, and discuss. And it's when my daughter was born, and my wife made a onesie that says, "I wish I could vote for Ron Paul," and then I met him at a Sioux City hearing, and basically I was just like, excuse me. I just barked through the crowd, and I got right up next to Ron Paul, and I asked the security guy, "Hey, can you take our picture?" And he's like, and he did. And then I got a phone call. A buddy of mine said, "Dude, were you just next to Ron Paul? You just made the news." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." Oh, cool. But he's the same as in person. He's no different, which I love about him. He's a good old boy. But Justin, I just admire you, my friend. I'm thankful for you. I'm encouraged by you, just the drive that you have in you. And, your convictions are apparent, and you stick true to your convictions. And I want to just encourage you to keep doing that and keep seeking truth. And if you're listening here, I just pray people listen. Keep asking questions. It's healthy to ask questions. It's healthy to go outside the norm, especially when the world's gone mad, and we live in a time where it's not, how do you say it? It's not politically correct to ask these questions, and that's okay. Yep. Especially, when the world's gone mad, when mad is normal, it's time to be weird, and that's that time. We are in that time. And
exactly.
So, Justin, I'm going to give you the last word. How can people find you? Where can people look you up? And just give us a word of encouragement.
Yeah, I was just tell people to check me out on Instagram and Twitter, Justin_We Are Change. And I'm also on Telegram and Facebook. You can find me under We Are Change Orlando. Justin Robert on Facebook. I use an alias name there. And check out standforhealthfreedom.com. This is the website and the group that I worked with to get the fluoride out of the water. They were the brains and the muscle behind it. I was out there in the public face more, but I really couldn't have done it without them. And they've created a toolkit that other states can go to their website or just message me. We'll give you this toolkit step by step, how to go in and get the fluoride out of your city council, out of your county commission. So it's a really helpful tool. So I encourage people to do that. And my words of encouragement are, I was never highly trained in journalism or public speaking or activism. I got passionate because I was lied to. I'm one guy. I just be resourceful, be creative, be consistent. Never underestimate the power of one conversation you're having, one social media post, one sign you make, one public speech. That could go viral, or it could spark the flame of someone who is the next Ron Paul, the next whoever. And I've seen it happen with one protest with 2 people there. I've had people come up to me and thank me with tears in their eyes because they stopped vaccinating their children. And it wasn't because I had an army of thousands of people or because I was some influencer. So I encourage people, don't stop speaking your truth. Get out there, get the word out, and we can help save even more lives than we have.
Amen. We never know how far-reaching something we may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow.
That's it.
Justin, thank you for your time. Man, I really love this conversation. I think we jived pretty well. I want to just keep this conversation flowing because I have so many more questions to ask you.
Absolutely.
Yep. Even on the 9/11 stuff, we could do a whole episode on 9/11. We could do a whole episode on Nephilim. We could do a whole episode on fluoride. We could do a whole episode on the Challenger. Oh, I want to go more on the Challenger too, doggone it. But I think we're going to have to bring you back on. Dude, you've been a lot of fun. Love this conversation. I just want you to stay on. But thanks for listening. People love and share this podcast. Share it far and wide. And I pray for those that are listening that are in a situation or struggling. I pray there's always hope. Hope is the most powerful drug there is. The sun is shining on the other side of the clouds, and keep asking questions. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
To August of last year, nobody really knew who I was.
There's about 12 people who are producing 65% of anti-vaccine misinformation.
We need to come together as Americans and realize that we have a war at hand here. Right?
Like, dude, how scared of this shit do you have to be to be wearing gloves, a face shield, and mask at this point?
Help us to urge folks and say to them, look, it's time to roll up your sleeve and get the shot.
Chiropractor in Omaha, Nebraska, responsible for 65% of the anti-vaccine misinformation. Put what I say to the test. Just don't write me off as crazy misinformation.
Doctor, please bring yourself in order.
600,000 people will die of cancer. 300,000 people will die of obesity this year. When is enough enough?